Well, there's a bit of a situation going on in New South Wales NPL with one club, one of the oldest clubs competing in the state leagues, mind you. It's the Sutherland Sharks, although it's not actually the Sutherland Sharks anymore. It's just Sharks FC. So on Monday evening, February 3, Sutherland Sharks announced on their social media that they're going to be changing their name and they're going to be calling themselves Sharks FC. So they're just doing away with their geographical location and just going to be called Sharks. Now, I just want to tell you how awful that is. But before I tell you how awful it is, I'm sure you already probably think it's awful from what I've told you already. I'm going to have a look at their social media post. And this is what they put up. Introducing your Sharks FC. Today, we're proud to unveil a refreshed name and identity for our great club. A bold new look that honours our history while paving the way for an exciting future. As part of this evolution, we're simplifying our name from Sutherland Sharks FC to Sharks FC, making our brand sharper and more recognisable while staying true to our roots. And then there's basically a whole lot of PR BS that I'm not going to bore you with. I'm not going to read it out. You could read it if you want. I'm just going to tell you this decision by Sutherland Sharks just awful. Go back to what did that post say about making our brand sharper and more recognisable. So I guess if you're not from Sydney, Sutherland Sharks play in the Sutherland Shire local government area. They're based in Miranda, one of the suburbs of the Shire. And there's also an NRL team called the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, more known as just the Cronulla Sharks. And if you're talking about sport in Sydney and you talk about, I went to the Sharks game on the weekend, you talk about the Sharks, people already assume you're talking about the NRL team. Now, I'm not entirely sure, going off that post, how the soccer team making our brand sharper and more recognisable. I don't know how they're going to be more recognisable by this name change. I always thought it was kind of weird when I started getting into football that there was a team called the Sutherland Sharks when the Cronulla Sharks were there. And mind you, if you're not from Sydney, Cronulla is in that same area, a local government area of Sydney. For me, this kind of decision, it doesn't make any sense to me because, and still, a decision like this, even at a higher up level, like the NRL or the AFL, doesn't make any sense to me. The Southern Sharks are a community club. They probably do pay their players a bit of money, but they're not competing at the elite level. They're not playing at the A League. They're not playing at any national second tier in the foreseeable future. To me, making a decision like this, one based on brand and economics and money and all that PR spin bullcrap, just doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense at the NRL level or the AFL or the A-League level. And I don't know why it would make any sense at the community level. So, for example, currently in the NRL, there's one team that does go by this. We're just going to be called by our mascot, and that's the Dolphins. If you're not aware of the Dolphins, there was the Redcliffe Dolphins, formed in 1947, competed in the local Brisbane competition for forever and a day since then. And they put in an application to join the NRL and it was accepted. But they're just going by the Dolphins because, from my understanding, is they want to try and represent not just Redcliffe and Moreton Bay, but also the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane. It's this weird thing that the club wants to be like, we want to be so inclusive to all these different areas. Why? I live in Western New South Wales, 2.5 to 3 hours to Sydney, and I've got mates that support plenty of different NRL teams. Parramatta, Manly, Penrith. Have they ever been to those suburbs? Maybe once or twice, but it didn't really bother when that suburb was because they still supported that club. And that's the same with the A-League, I've got mates out here that go for Macarthur or Western Sydney or Sydney FC. They don't necessarily come from those areas. They don't really visit those areas more often, but they still picked an A-League team, and it didn't matter about that geographical location. So why is an NPL club? I mean, what kind of money are they making compared to the big top tier clubs? Very little. Why is Sutherland Sharks making a decision like this? Not really sure. I'm not really here to find out for you. I'm just here to give you a bit of a rant. I think the decision sucks. I think it stinks. I think it rips at the history of a club that goes back to 1930. In 5 years' time, this club will be celebrating 100 years, and they're just going to be known as the Sharks. They're not going to be known as that club that represents the Shire, the Sutherland Shire community. They're just going to be known by this lazy PR spin bullcrap. Now, I did go to Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days, to share my thoughts on it, not on the Couch Critics, not on the Couch Critics, but on my own personal account. And I might share you some of the responses I got. Port Melbourne must be known as the Sharks down in Victoria. I should do the same then in the FFA Cup or Australia Cup. We have the opportunity to see the Sharks for the Sharks. Chris, good friend of the channel. How you going, Chris? As a former resident of the Shire, I can't blame them for not wanting to advertise. Love it. Hate the marketing brands speak that they've used for the explanation. Wish there was a plain English explanation for why they dropped it. Yeah, I think people are just sick and tired of this rubbish of just this PR spin about why they make decisions. I think we saw that with Athletics Australia, and they got rebranded as Australia Athletics or vice versa. And they tried to pull all this PR spin. It was a load of crap. Couldn't they simplify it to Southern FC? I mean, if they were going to do anything to their name, I think that would make a better sense. And some of the quote tweets as well, I think. This was interesting by Paul Mavrodis. If you don't know about him, he's a diehard South Melbourne fan, had a blog going on for ages. Australian soccer has historically had to beg, plead, twist arms to get ethnic clubs to attach a district to their ethnic name. In here we have a near 100-year-old Australian club going the other way. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. So, you know, I think when we tried to Australianize ethnic clubs, we kind of told those Olympic clubs, those Ugal clubs, those Croatian clubs to where are you from? You're from Sydney. You're from Melbourne. You're just not Croatian soccer club. Don't know if I necessarily like governing bodies trying to impose their naming standards on certain clubs. But it's very interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting point by Paul, and have to agree there. Yeah, Leonardo already had that comment. Yeah, 100 times worse. Nothing worse in sports when the club doesn't want to represent the place they're based in. Yeah, that really stinks. Yeah, just it sucks. You know, obviously there's a lot of responses from people just really frustrated about the decision. I did say the Dolphins currently doing the NRL. The Canterbury Bulldogs and funny enough, the Cronulla Sharks also did this in the NRL for a time when they just went by the Bulldogs and the Sharks respectively. And thankfully, those clubs have gone back to their names. So who knows? We might go back to the Sutherland Sharks. We may not. I'm not going to lie, though. The logo, except for obviously Sharks and no Sutherland, I really like the logo. It's really sharp, really snappy. Where's their old logo? I'll show you their logo before I finish up here. Their old logo is fairly similar. Yeah, I really like that old logo. I like the new one, but it's just a shame that they've abandoned that Sutherland. You know, I'm not from the Shire. No way, absolutely no way near to the Shire. But it's just a really disappointing decision. Anyway, thanks for listening to a bit of a rant from me just about the situation at the Sutherland Sharks. Let me know what you think about the decision by the club in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's always great to get some new subscribers, and we've had so many new supporters in the past couple of months and the past year, really. So thank you for all the support, and till next time, we'll see you in the next rant on the next video.